Hello and welcome to this Bonhams webinar about a subject that everyone is talking about and very few can legitimately claim to understand: NFT artworks. My name is Farah Nayeri and I'm a journalist for the New York Times. I'm also an author and a podcaster. Now, we have six very distinguished and knowledgeable speakers who you see on screen right now, panelists, fellow panelists of mine. These panelists will soon be giving you their words of wisdom on this particular discipline. But before we get started, I thought I'd tell you a little story about my newspaper and NFTs. There was an episode a few months ago when a colleague of mine, the technology writer Kevin Roos, he decided to write a column about NFTs and make an NFT of this column and stick it on blockchain and sell it. And so he did that. He wrote his column and he made a graphic of it, and then he made an NFT of it. An NFT, as most of you will know, stands for non-fungible token. And non-fungible token is both a certificate of authenticity and a certificate of ownership. So he created this NFT and he basically put it on auction for 24 hours. And all of his friends and colleagues made massive fun of him. I mean, there were bets going around the newsroom. Oh yeah, you're going to basically sell it for a few $100s if you're lucky. Ha ha ha. He was laughed at, and he himself personally was really not expecting much. He had very low expectations. And at the beginning, his expectations were met, meaning, you know, this NFT was fetching $850, $1,000, $1,200, nothing to write home about. By the time he went to bed that night, the bidding on his NFT had reached $30,000. Now, let's just remember what this was. This was basically a token of ownership of his column, which anybody could read on the New York Times for free. Okay, ownership of an image of his column. So then the next day, by the time the auction wrapped up, the stuff the whole thing went completely crazy. The auction went mad. Everyone was bidding like mad. And in the end, the price fetched by the NFT of this column was 350 Ether. 350 Ether at the time was like $500,000. Within, I think, a few days, it went $750,000. I went online on Google and checked. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but 350 Ether today is worth $650,000. And so he gave the money to charity, but it was an unbelievable story that he's telling and the whole world is still telling. And currently there's an online Bonhams auction, which is called CryptOGs, the originators of crypto art. So these are 9 artworks by some of the pioneers of NFT art, 2 of whom are with us today on screen. We have Coldy and Matt Kane, and both of them have works in this auction. You can find those works right there on the website. You can check them out and you can put in your bids. In the meantime, I just thought I'd kick off the conversation by turning to John Crain. John, you're the founder and the CEO of SuperRare, which is a company that makes and markets, markets NFT artworks. Very warm welcome to you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John. Can you start us off by explaining what NFT artworks are and why people should buy them?
Well, so NFT artworks, as you mentioned, they've been in the news, lots of hype. Lots of people still don't really know what they are. But it's essentially, NFTs are a new technology. They've been around for a few years. And what it allows is essentially to merge an artwork with a certificate of authenticity. So they're almost one and the same. These artworks are stored on blockchains or distributed ledgers. So anyone can audit the provenance trail of the artwork, which is a huge reason as to why they're interesting and valuable. And why I think people should buy NFTs is I think it's great to support the arts. It's also fun to play with new technologies. And so if you buy NFT artwork, you get to do both.
Okay, but the thing that confuses me is, are you buying the actual artwork or are you buying the certificate proving that you own the artwork?
I would say you're buying both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Some people say you're only buying the token, showing that you own it, but it's basically something that's out there and you don't actually physically have with you, or anyone can own. I mean, not anyone can own. I mean, it's confusing.
Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, yeah, you get into the rabbit hole of like, what is art, which is you can go very deep,
Right.
sort of as deep as you want.
Okay, got it. And that's so by the way, I've started to have greetings come up on the question column here. We've just got greetings from Pierre Bourque in Canada. He says, looking forward to the panel. And thank you very much, Pierre, for giving us encouragement. Nima, I want to turn to you next and ask you why Bonhams is launching into this space, because I believe this is the maiden auction by Bonhams in this space.
Yeah, I mean, the very simple answer is because I just thought it was a really interesting project and I put it to our board and they approved it. But the idea behind it is that traditionally, I mean, we're an 18th century auction house, so we've been around for hundreds of years. Traditionally, auction houses have basically had a role of pretty much selling whatever people have brought to us. It hasn't traditionally been a selective practice. It has been usually a clearinghouse for art dealers and people that have either been indebted or passed away and have needed to have their inheritance sold to basically come and sell their goods as a clearinghouse. Recently, it's a kind of 20th century, late 20th century phenomenon. Auction houses have started to take a much more curatorial approach to what they sell and become highly selective and basically, zoom in on certain art movements and categories and decide to, illuminate new angles on them. So
okay.
Actually, my personal background is in modern and contemporary Middle Eastern art, and it's very, very similarly to NFTs. It's an area which is extremely popular, but very under-examined. And by under-examined, I don't mean that, there aren't people in the know. It's just outside of the small circle of people that are in the know, there's a lot of confusion and there's a lack of what I'd call a lack of understanding amongst lay people as to the movement and where it came from. So I basically thought, very much in parallel to what I've been doing in the Middle Eastern art market, that NFT art is now kind of almost established in kind of the popular consciousness, but maybe there's not so much of a deep understanding of where it came from. And people have had very small windows into the NFT world, albeit highly publicized windows. So they've had tiny snapshots of, for instance, what Beeple has done or what another artist have done. But these are kind of, minuscule looks into this enormous world. So we thought that the time was right after, this phenomenon had been running for a few months in the global press to basically take a step back, look at how the movement started, who the originators were, and kind of place them in art historical context. And again, it's very unusual for an auction house, and it's becoming more normal for an auction house to start to play this role of art historical commentator. And, we seem to be doing it more and more. And it's something that, we're quite comfortable with. And hopefully there will be some art historical value to this auction, regardless of the commercial success.
Great, thank you. And apologies, Nima, I should have introduced you. You're Director of Modern and Contemporary Middle Eastern Art at Bonhams. Thank you, Nima, for that. We're starting to get some questions. Welcome to send in more. I will get to them shortly, but I wanted to turn to two artists whose works are actually being auctioned currently by Bonhams. The first artist I'll talk to you is Coldy. Hi, Coldy, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And I just, my understanding, Coldy, is that you create art both in real life and in the NFT space. And I just wanted to know whether you could explain to us what drew you to NFTs.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I've been making fine art for, about 10 years now. Traditionally, before I got immersed into NFTs and digital, I was creating digital collages with stereoscopics, which means using 3D glasses, and it creates a depth effect. And also with a lenticular lens, which means you can put a special lens on top of the paper and it pops out without 3D glasses. So inherently, I was already kind of working with tech and art at the same time. I just didn't have a venue to, do art shows and get my stuff out there in a way like NFTs are doing. So,
right.
I got juried into some national exhibits. I was, just emerging as an artist on my own. And it was kind of the right place at the right time when NFTs happened. I found them in 2018, and I just wanted a place to share my art. So I just started tokenizing, and that's kind of where the shift personally has happened. And I still make physical art, but NFTs are where my head's at and my passion's at.
Yeah, you've got one hanging behind you, so I don't know if you can duck so we can see it or get out of the way. Okay, cool.
So
we
that's
see
the piece. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's the piece that's in the auction. It's called it's proof of work Genesis. And this piece, it's kind of a melding of a bunch of things that I love. I grew up and I currently live in the heart of the California gold rush. So my whole life I grew up around gold miners, going to where they found gold. And it's a direct, it's almost like a fractal. I think history repeats a lot. The gold rush of the 1850s is much akin to the crypto currency and this whole space. It's just opportunity bound. And if you put in the hard work, you can be rewarded.
Are you being rewarded right now by being in the NFT space compared to being in a bricks and mortar gallery?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, first of all, I'm doing my passions, and it's what I love to do. That's what my grandma said to do. So, I found that. And with that, it's technology as well. I was a super nerdy kid, still am. And, I'm able to bring these digital worlds and the physical world together so that I can, first of all, share my art worldwide 24/7. I don't have to hope somebody walks into the gallery that likes my particular kind of weird art. It's just, it's truly a game changer, just to connect with collectors as well.
And how well are you doing, sales wise?
Yeah, I mean, my sales have increased dramatically. I mean, over the last 3 years, just a quick synopsis. Like, I would sell one of my early pieces on SuperRare, a 1 of 1, for about $100. And at the time, I was so happy, right? Someone appreciated my art, and there was a value exchange, right? So I was stoked, like, no problem. Those pieces now are on the secondary market and they sell for about 90 grand. So,
wow, okay.
And that's just a combination between the collectability and the NFT market. So, I mean, I'm not making that 90 grand, but I'll tell you one important thing for people to understand.
It drives up the price of your other work.
100%. Yeah. But the magic, and I want to make a note on this, is what NFTs do is it's called a smart contract for people who are not savvy on the tech. And what happens when the button is pressed to buy it is the artwork is exchanged instantaneously, but built into the contract is a secondary artist commission. And I get 10%.
Right.
I get 10%, which in the traditional world never happens.
Yeah,
right?
Just to explain. So even if the work is sold and resold and resold and resold, you will get a percentage of each resale. Whereas in the real world, if you're an artist, you sell the work via the gallery, you have to pay 50% commission versus 15, I believe. John, correct me if I'm wrong, through SuperRare, you only put down 15% commission to John, right? Yep. And then correct. Every time it gets resold, you get some money in the bank. So yeah, obviously big advantages there. And by the way, for all of you who's watching, you need to realize that you've got some of the most important protagonists of the whole NFT art space right here on your screen. John Crain, right there, is the co-founder or founder of SuperRare, which is one of the main art NFT platforms. And Coldy and Matt Kane are two of the main originators of this kind of art. And then we've got Rong, who is curator at SuperRare. I'm going to be turning to her very soon. Nima, who's starting the Bonhams auction very soon. Actually, the Bonhams auction has started. And we have Amir Soleymani, who's a collector. But before I turn to Amir, I thought I would go to the next artist we have on screen, Matt Kane. Matt, could you also tell us, why you've chosen this space, and maybe show us your art by getting out of the way so we can see it.
Fully get out of the way.
All right. Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. I mean, we've got some interesting artworks on screen here. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're what you're putting on what is on the Bonhams platform for sale right now.
Sure. What's on sale at Bonhams right now is a deconstruction of the M87 Black Hole, which was the first image humanity got to see of a black hole. It was created in 2017 and released in 2019. When I first saw the image of the black hole, I had been sort of very interested in black holes my whole life since I was a child. There was a Disney film called The Black Hole. It kind of captured my imagination. I spent most of my childhood going to museums, planetariums, and the black hole was just kind of like a fixation for me. And I think also it's a subject that humanity also, like, it's just kind of a global focus for humanity of imagination and interest. So when I first saw this image on April 15th, 2019, I instantly said, I have to paint this. So I painted the M87 Black Hole. And then I had this concept because previous to this, I had experienced the loss of a very dear friend of mine to suicide. That was in 2013. And so anyway, that was me kind of entering my own personal black hole. And so for many years, I basically created my own software. And I did that. I was originally a traditional painter, but I moved into digital painting because I had been a web developer. And I said, well, I cannot use self-expression for a period of time because it hurts too much because I'm in this black hole of grief, right? And so, so I spend these years building my own software, and eventually, I see the black hole and I say, let me capture my grief. So I put a red sticker on my forehead. I create a little program. I allowed myself to feel my feelings, and my web camera captured me kind of experiencing that, and captured the movement of the red dot as I kind of felt my feelings. And so I took that data set, right? And I exposed that to this painting of the black hole that I had created. Sorry, this is getting a little nerdy and technical.
Right, no, not at all, not at all. Yeah.
And so I ended up creating 9 of these deconstructions where I took the original painting of the black hole that I had created, and all of the objects, all the little vectors, they all, like, within my concept of painting, my paintings are databases. They're not pixels. They're all like little databases of code. And
color though, but color, right? There's a lot of color behind you.
Lots of color. Yeah, I make these paintings are sometimes 150, 200 layers. This one behind me, I think, was only around 60. But it creates quite a bit of depth.
Yeah. And so before we turn to Anne and to Amir, can you tell us how helpful this NFT art space has been to you, how much it's helped your career or not?
Oh, it's really helped my career. So originally I started showing my paintings in 2004 at a well-known Chicago gallery, and they did a great job of selling my work. But I kind of had different concepts of where I wanted to go with my art career. So I ended up spending 7 years in web development, as I mentioned. Then I end up like having the skills to create my own art software, and so I do that. But at the time I started, my software was like 2014, and there wasn't NFTs. There wasn't a driving force for traditional brick and mortar galleries to be interested in digital work. There's very few of those. And so I was asking myself the question of, okay, I'm dedicating years of my life to create my own, digital art, whole narrative of work. But how am I going to ever find collectors for this? Because I'm either going to have to make physical prints, and I don't necessarily want to be forced into making physical prints, right? Because as I said, my work is really just a database of code. That's what the art is. It captures, every interaction I have with my software. And so, a certificate of authenticity seemed kind of false. It's on paper. It's very kind of flimsy as far as like, authenticating provenance. And then I was thinking, I could, have a gold gilded diamond studded USB drive, and that's just lame. And so all of the options I had for myself were lame, or just a no-go. And so in the summer of 2017, I read an article about NFTs, art on blockchain, everything they could do. The article discussed how royalties could be cooked into that. Because I came from a brick and mortar gallery, I understood some of the problems the traditional art world has. And so I was instantly sold, like, this is wonderful. Like, I know where I'm gonna go now. But it was 2017. Cool. There were no platforms like SuperRare yet. So I looked around.
That's a good point, actually, you know, because I cover art all the time for the paper, for the New York Times. And I have to say, yeah, you know, in terms of digital art, it's very difficult for us as journalists, for instance, to write an exciting story about an exhibition in a bricks and mortar space of digital art. You know, I mean, the art is gorgeous, it's beautiful, but it's hard to convey that, you know. You have to sit in front of a video monitor, it's time-based. Anyway, there are all kinds of reasons why you're right. Digital art is definitely benefiting from NFTs for you guys to get, you know, an audience, you know. Yeah, and a market, definitely. You know, gallerists, you know, how are they going to sell a movie on a video monitor? I mean, it's hard for them. It's harder. And anyway, so I thought I would turn to the only other woman on this panel. Well, the only woman on this panel. This is a very heavily male panel, but I think NFT is quite a heavily male space. So Amir, if you forgive me, I will go to Anne Rong, who is the fellow woman on this panel, and because I really want to hear from Anne. Anne, you're the curator at SuperRare, which is the platform where Coldy and Matt Kane sell their art. And I just wanted to you to explain to us, and if you could unmute, what your job involves in as a curator there.
Well, so I usually do exhibitions and auction events and special releases. So for this Bonhams auction, I started with the conversation with Nima like a few months ago. Like, we were talking about what kind of topics and what artists we should feature in this auction. And yeah, so we're starting to think about this topic of CryptOGs and to make it into a really well curated auction, because I just felt that other very big auction houses that enter the NFT space, they don't really do a very good curation job. That's my opinion. Because you know, they usually just get the best selling artists and then put them together and do an auction. So I really want to do another very different, that's very meaningful, very educational to like people outside of the NFT space, to tell the story of these crypto artists, this NFT, these people who really believe in NFTs and doing crypto art full time, not just to, you know, make money, but yeah, like for these originators of crypto art, I think they're very special and very important to this art movement, because so I think in 2021, like when the NFT space is blowing up, the market is becoming very lucrative. So artists have a very high motivation to join this space and sell their art for a lot of money. But before NFTs and crypto art were recognized by the mainstream, by most of the collectors, these artists, they just sold their art for like $50, and that's already a very huge price for them back in 2018. So I think back then, the ideologies of these people they're like sharing in the crypto art space is very different from people who joined much later, because they have this financial motivation. But back then, they're really the people who started to build this community, invest in the crypto art movement, and they have very unique culture in the whole crypto art space that they share, kind of similar to the other like bigger crypto movement, that they're very rebellious against the art establishment, and they love freedom, love experimenting with new things. So I just think that CryptOGs is a very good story. Also, like from an art historical background, like the narrative, because you know, if you think about all the art movements in the art history, there were always like a group of artists who basically started the movement, and they helped building the movement along the years, and make the movement very, you know, successful. And they're the ones that really started the creativity that nobody has done before. So I think the artists we had in these auctions, they definitely are the people who joined the space super early, and they continue to invest in the space, help building up the whole community.
Yeah.
And they're still very successful. Like
no, I mean, we have two of them on. I mean, we really get a sense listening to them that, you know, they are, you know, they were in on this particular discipline a long time ago, and that, yeah, there is an artistic drive and a passion, that this isn't just a kind of speculative drive, you know, a thing like, oh yeah, let's jump on this bandwagon. They kind of started the bandwagon, it seems. Anyway, I would like to hear now, finally, last but not least, from my fellow Iranian, Amir Soleymani. Amir, could you tell us, because you're the collector on this panel, could you tell us why you've decided to collect this sort of art?
Thank you very much for this amazing panel. Hi to everyone. Well, we had this kind of exchange before. Right. To answer the question, first of all, we need to understand truly what is the NFT, right? There are two sorts of interpretation of the NFT. One is that it acts as the certificate of authenticity on the blockchain, and it's just a companion for the art.
Right.
The second is that it's a new tool and it's a new medium to create art, right? So that should be understood. Like what I always say is that at some point in history, people started to draw on walls in caves, right? And then at some point, they started to use like other materials, and then they ended up on paper. Now we are in a stage in history that people are using digital mediums to create art and to convey what they have in their thoughts, right? So in my view, there is absolutely no difference between a piece of digital art and a canvas that you can hang in your home. Both of them, as long as they're authenticated, they're created by the artist, and the provenance there is no difference in terms of the value, in terms of the appreciation, and in terms of even displaying the art, right? It's not only on your mobile phone or in your wallet. There are tons of technologies. I mean, the least you can do is just to project it on a TV screen and display it in your home, right? So what I believe is that the NFT is a new medium to display and to convey what the artist has created in his mind, and just materialized it in a form of, in some sense, that others can enjoy that thought.
Okay,
right?
And so do you display the works that you collect?
Yes. Well, I have an art gallery in Liverpool as well.
That's true.
I have several displays there. I display my art that I've collected from my personal collection there. I display the art at my home. And,
sorry, I should have mentioned you're the founder of the Adelia Art Gallery. That's in Liverpool. Yeah,
it is. And the other thing that we need to understand is that NFT is not solely for art, right? NFT is a technology. It's based on smart contract, and it's based on the blockchain. One usage of the NFT is to sort of display art with the fact that it lives on the blockchain forever, and all the provenance and everything is there. But the most important part is that that's a technology, right? You can create like many things on top of this technology. Your creativity has no limit. Recently, we witnessed one of the greatest artists, musicians, BT. He dropped a piece of software on SuperRare. It was a software, like a piece of HTML code and a JavaScript. It was a live software, and it was working 24 hours with different music, different themes. And we also saw with an artist called Mad Dog Jones and many other artists. Well, I believe Beeple was the first to create that, the sort of transferable art. So the art actually changes based on real world actions or real world events, right? So we have some sorts of very complicated art that's being created. And like what Matt said, down the line, instead of using his software to create those beautiful pieces of art, he can program that into a smart contract, and then let's say at some point in time, NASA discovers another phenomenon in space in terms of black holes or any other object on space. And Matt can incorporate that new finding into blockchain and change the existing art.
Okay.
See?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think we have exactly half an hour to go, and I'd like to fling it open now to questions. We've received some questions from David. Is it Thompson? David Thompson, addressed to all panelists. If I have a piece of video art, what do I own? The TV, the CD player, or the CDs? But mainly his question is, how do I know it's the only copy? Likewise, where are Hockney's iPad drawings or iPad paintings, and are they NFTs? I don't know who wants to take this on. John, do you want to take this on, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say to start that, it's that you have the only copy. Again, it's like, what is the art? So the token is really what's valuable, and there can be only one token, right? That's part of this innovation with NFTs. It gets recorded on a distributed ledger. Only one person can own one. You can't, even if you took the exact same piece of art and you made a new token, you'd be able to see instantly, well, the token associated with this art here is 30 seconds old, whereas the original is 3 years old, right? You can go look into the provenance. You have perfectly auditable provenance. And so I think that's, it's this interesting sort of philosophical question and psychological question where it's like, everyone in the world knows what the Mona Lisa looks like.
Right.
It's not like you're at the Louvre is like the only people enjoying the image of the Mona Lisa. They're, and we all know what she looks like.
Yeah.
So where does the value sit, right? It's this sort of like interesting philosophical question. I think a lot of people haven't really thought about the psychology of collecting or why people collect. I think it's very easy to say, like, on the surface level, well, you collect for possession and pure ownership. But I would say that's not true, right? Like, I think it's a much deeper relationship. Like, you're building relationships with artists, you're participating in a community. So I think it's much less about like guaranteeing, like, art isn't interesting. Like the Mona Lisa is not interesting just because like it's physically there on the wall, right? It's like all this story and context. And so I think there's a lot of other questions, and it gets, deep. And then
but I mean, so the thing is, like, I think the point here is that, as somebody said, the Italian contemporary artist Maurizio Catalan famously showed a banana at the Art Basel Miami, right? And actually, I met him a couple of weeks earlier, and he told me he was about to show a banana, and I should have written the story then, but I just thought everyone's going to think I'm nuts. And he pasted this banana on the wall, and it sold for, I don't know, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And as somebody said, NFTs, it's the same sort of concept. I mean, it's not the banana, the physical banana is going to rot, right? But the artwork that is I guess that corresponds to the NFT, right? That artwork is a concept or an idea or an image that's reproduced 1 million times, but one person owns the right to it, right? The certificate of ownership. Go for it now, Nima.
I just want to jump in because I think Coldy said something a few days ago when he first started minting these. Someone said to him, good luck with your JPEGs, very cynically. And there is this whole good luck with your JPEGs crowd, I like to call them, that they seem to be completely overlooking the concept of ownership of an artwork. And it's absolutely nothing new. I mean, if you own if you own a Damien Hirst print or a fine art photograph or even a Warhol silkscreen, which is something that's created essentially through, a mechanized process, and I came to you and I offered you an exact replica that came out of the exact same printer, maybe even on the exact same day, but wasn't signed or sold by Warhol, you wouldn't accept to swap one for the other, even if what I was offering you was materially superior to what you had, which makes it very clear that it's not about possession of an object. It's not about access to an object, because you, as John said, you can access the Mona Lisa any day of the week. Yeah, it's about the artist ascribing the ownership to you, and that is absolutely nothing new. It happens in the, it's happened in the world of fine art photography. It happens in the world of lithography. Hokusai was doing it hundreds of years ago in Japan when he was printing woodblock prints. And I think that if these people were around today, if Warhol was around today, if Hokusai was around today, they would absolutely, you know, kiss the floor when they heard of the concept of NFTs, because what their whole practice was about the mechanical production of artworks and the ability to ascribe ownership of them to other people, really irrespective of the physical object. Because as I said, if you offered someone a straight swap for a similar physical object, they wouldn't accept it. So that's why when this whole NFT movement began, it just made so much sense to me. And it kind of confused me why people didn't want to get their head around it rather than couldn't get their head around it. I think it's more a case of just resistance to the unfamiliar rather than seeing that actually there's so much familiarity behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question from MV. MV to all panelists, and MV says it's a question for the artists. How do you prefer to see your work displayed? Do you think about it in terms of traditional ownership, hanging in your house or in somebody's house, or does it just exist on the blockchain as far as you're concerned? I mean, how do you view your art as some kind of, you know, notch in the ledger or as a physical piece of art? Coldy, go for it.
You know, I think this brings up a really good point. So how do you view art again, right? Like I said, before I got into blockchain, I was doing it on a canvas. I was taking digital artworks and doing, it's called an image transfer, where I was taking ink off of paper onto canvas. So that was my process, right? To me, the image is the art, right? How you display it. We're getting into some really wild times, right? So it went from canvas now to a digital screen, right? Which that's happening. You know, you're going to see this, I would say, in the next 6 months. There's going to be major digital frames like connected to the blockchain. This is definitely happening. That's a great thing. So all these things we've been collecting over the years, we knew the hardware was going to catch up, but you can't wait until the hardware catches up if you really want to collect, right? So that's on the horizon right now. You know, I can look at it, you know, on my phone. You can put them on your TV screens. You know, there's ways to make it work right now. But what I think is super important is we're heading into a metaverse type of area, and that includes like virtual worlds, virtual reality. And what I'm doing, and a lot of us do, is we can take our NFTs and put them into virtual worlds. Okay, and I think it's a shift in realities, right? So we can go into this place and share our art, build art galleries, and have, you know, exhibitions. I've thrown exhibitions where there's you know 100 artworks in this thing, right? And I think that the idea of this display, it's personal preference, right? But you can go a bunch of different ways once you own the NFT. You know, it's and also it's also the same thing as when you own an NFT, it's so much easier to care for than a piece of art, right? Imagine, you know, you have to keep your room temperature controlled. You have to insure it. When you ship it, it's a fiasco. Like there's all these things that the traditional art world is used to doing, but there's also a lot of things that NFTs are solving. And a lot of those things are inherent to the display. And, you know, if your house burns down, you're not running down the street with your canvases, right? They're locked on a secure wallet that only you have access to, right? So I think there's a lot of different reasons why display is important, because it's not this or that. It can be all, and you own it, right? So yeah, that's another deep rabbit hole question.
Yeah, I just want to tack on really quick. Just like in my own sort of like personal art collecting experience, right? It's like getting a new piece is like, the first thing is like, okay, where am I going to put this? Like I might want to I might have room in my closet and I have, you know, I just want to hang on to it, or I want to display it because, you know, show off. But like it's super magical when like with NFTs, you're like, I can just buy it and I don't have to worry about it. I can put it, you know, I have a bunch of screens in my house. It's fun for me to have a coffee and, you know, put different work on. But the collecting experience is so seamless and fun, right? It's just like there's this whole component, and it's different, right? Collecting NFTs is very different. It's a different user experience than collecting a piece of physical art. And, you know, there's pros and cons, right, to both. I think both are fun for very different reasons. But it's an important thing to consider. So +1, Goldie.
Okay, so I'm gonna shoot this question at Anne because we have Lee Liebold writing in. He said, I recently purchased a publishing company with 53 years of military and aviation art. And this man seems to be facing a curatorial issue here. He or she says, how would that work for me? How should I best use NFTs for the books and art? I mean, you know what I mean? He's got this treasure trove of imagery, right? Military and aviation art. I mean, do you recommend that people who have these sorts of collections, you know, go and get NFTs for them or not? Or, you know, what should people do?
I mean, everything can be NFTs if you want to make them into NFTs. And if there are people who want to collect them as NFTs, of course, you can do it. And we do similar things like that. I think like Time Magazine's cover that's decades, years old, we're selling at SuperRare and people collect that as well. And I think, yeah, it's like this kind of publishing company that has this history, they have the story. Of course, they can convert them into NFTs that, you know, people could just buy as something they want to collect and keep and, you know, learn the story of them. Yeah, sure.
Cool. We haven't heard from Amir and Matt in a while, so Amir and Matt, here's one for Amir. As a collector and an owner of NFTs, there's a question coming to you from David Thompson. I think he asked something again. He asked, surely it undermines the value of the work by being able to replicate it so easily. How do you feel about that? The fact that, well, I mean, it's true that you own this, you are the ultimate owner of this artwork, but anyone can pop it on their mobile phone or on their iPad or on their plasma screen. You know, like it's just...
Nima, I think Nima answered that.
Yeah.
I mean, perfectly. I mean, anyone can make a copy of a Warhol lithograph, right? Does it mean that they can sell it? Does it mean that they own, I mean, in their head, do they own any sort of valuable piece of art? No, they know that it's fake, right? They know that it's a copy. So same goes with an NFT. In the blockchain, I own that piece of NFT. So anyone can use that JPEG or that like GIF, but the truth is the ownership is mine. So as simple as that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, Matt, Matt, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, the other thing that I would add is one thing that I do for my collectors to add value is because I was a web engineer in a previous life. In December of 2019, I built my own website that allows my NFTs that my collectors have to come log into my website using their digital wallet. My website, you know, authenticates that they are indeed the owner of a particular artwork. And then I am able to share with them special exclusive experiences that only they can have. And then I also enabled it so that they can decide whether to share those with the public, share it with other collectors, you know, different classes of people. And so for me, that's a big, you know, bonus of value is that as I'm a living artist, you know, I can reinterpret my artwork and, you know, share new experiences, you know, as my artwork scales into future technology. And, you know, one of the things I'm doing for the work behind me, which is part of the Bonhams auction, is, you know, the NFT that's the artwork file that's minted on SuperRare is a 2K resolution file. Well, I provide a 4K and even an 8K version of that file only to the collector. Only the collector will be able to log into my website and access that. And so, you know, that's what I would say is a big differential when you use NFTs as an access point. And that's the future of NFTs, I think.
Got it. I see. I'm going to ask one now. I you know, went online, and of course, as you all know, there's a clip of LeBron James, basketball player, dunking, and it's become an NFT and sold for more than $20,000. There's Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter. He sold his first ever tweet as an NFT, and it was sold for $2.9 million. Now, these are not works of art, okay? And yet they're fetching these sums. And so I think that there is a risk or a chance that the NFT space is going to start to look like a kind of space for gimmicks. So my question to you, the two artists on here, is how do you feel about the gimmickization of the NFT space? And John as well. Let's actually hear from John. Haven't heard from you in a while. You know, this is like this kind of space with all these gimmicks going on, right? The basketball player dunking and the meme, these memes that go for ridiculous prices, right? The NFT of a meme. So how does that, doesn't that devalue the art that you've got, you know, selling on your platform?
So I would say actually, so my opinion is it's actually the opposite.
Okay.
Even though there are these things that, you know, are frivolous, like we might not consider them, you know, pieces of art in the traditional sense, where it's still so early. It's like when, you know, like websites in, you know, 1994, it was just like, oh my God, the website's online. This must be extremely official. It's on the internet. And it was, but like, actually, if you dug around, it wasn't really that hard, just it was still very new. And now, you know, I think like, it sort of is like, does like the website I created, like affect at all the value of like Instagram as a website? Like, you're like, they're just both websites. You made yours in your basement, and this person has an engineering team of 10,000 people. And it's still like, because NFTs, you know, they can be a piece of art, like they can be an access key, like Matt just mentioned. So it's still so early. I think maybe in the short term, it might be confusing for new people if they're like, what is this? There's tweets selling, and I thought this was about art. But I think eventually we'll kind of, the NFT part of the conversation will, like, you know, fade down this, I don't know, the tech stack or something. It'll go more into the background where, like, if you want to dig around and understand the technology layer, that's really great. But I think eventually we'll get back to talking more about, you know, is it art? Or it looks like there's some hands up for folks who want to comment.
Yeah. Go ahead. I mean, sorry, Amir, did you want to come in?
Yeah. What I wanted to say on those, like the video of LeBron James, is that in real world, we see people collecting weird things. Yeah. Right? Like from the autographs to, like, I don't know, empty matchbox, or I don't know, empty gum box. I mean, people are collecting weird things, and those are part of the collectibles in NFT space, right? So the first ever tweet of Jack Dorsey is valuable as a collectible, right? A CryptoPunk, even though it's like a pixelized thing, it's not, I mean, technically you cannot call it a piece of art, right? And it sells for millions because it's collectible, right? So we need to understand that those memes and those clips, and these are like collectibles. They don't need to have any artistic value. These are just collectibles, and people are willing to collect them. And as long as people are willing to collect, they sell.
Okay. I had another question. And by the way, we've got 10 more minutes if members of the audience would like to send me more questions. I am seeing them here, and I've asked most of them. But the question I had, and I guess I will put the question to, I don't know, I'll put it to Colby. Or actually, I'll put it to Matt. Matt, here's what happened is, as you know, Elon Musk made some declarations about cryptocurrency, and he was kind of downplaying it. He was downbeat about it, and, you know, sent the value crashing. And now in the last couple of days, I checked, and it seems like the values are really recovering. So this is an extremely volatile space. The value of your art, you know, or if you hold your assets in Bitcoin or in cryptocurrency, is going up and down all the time. It's a bit roller coastery. And I just wanted you to tell me how you felt about this volatility.
I feel great about volatility. In fact, I run an artwork project called volatility.art, which on a daily basis, it refreshes a new sort of abstract composition based upon the 24 hours of Bitcoin volatility.
Right.
And I've been following what Elon Musk has been doing. I'm not going to comment on what he's doing, other than to say I'm sort of preserving what he's doing within the NFTs I'm minting in my project. Yeah, and what I would say is that early crypto artists, we were willing to sell our artworks for not much money. My first NFT sold for $85, and that was considered, a huge sum. But the way that early crypto artists were looking at it were, I'm selling this for 0.5 Ethereum, right? Ether.
Yeah.
And so then it was worth $85. Today, that's worth, $1,000, and that's in 2 years. So it's kind of like artists were willing to say, okay, I will sell an artwork for much less than I value it in USD, because I'm going to hold on. I'm going to hodl. We have this term in crypto, hodl, which basically means hold on to. I'm going to hold on to, that cryptocurrency and wait a few years, and then I'm going to be able to extract that value of the artwork that I really felt that it was deserving of.
Okay, and Nima, what do you think of the whole issue of value? Because you're an auctioneer, you're at Bonhams, and you've persuaded Bonhams to put on this auction. What do you think of the volatility of the value of the cryptocurrency and therefore of the NFT?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not looking at it right now through a value perspective, in the sense that it's more important for us to expose the artist to people. The market is the determinant of the value. And actually, although cryptocurrencies are very, very closely welded to the movement, in the auction that we have running now, there are people that will be bidding in US dollars. So it's not the exclusive remit of the cryptocurrency world, although I agree they're completely, generally speaking, wedded together. But, there's volatility in everything. There's volatility in the prices of contemporary art, in currencies all over the world. Art markets rise and fall. It's happened to even the most established art markets. What's happened to old masters? What's happened to Persian carpets? No one looks at a Persian carpet and says, this is less meritorious artistically or technically just because, there aren't American businessmen like they were in the 80s paying like hundreds of thousands for them. So I would rather cool down the kind of financial chat when it comes to talking to people about NFTs, because I think that they're great creations, in and of themselves. And one thing I would say about the tokenization of LeBron James dunking and everything. I mean, even at an auction house, we sell everything from dinosaur fossils to, World War II medals. So one major mistake to make is to think that NFT is a style. And NFT is not a style, it's a medium. You can take the medium of sculpture and you can produce a World War II medal, or you can produce a fine art sculpture. It's not to say that those two are artistically equivalent, or that they should even go in the same category. They'll be sold in different auctions and that have different buyers. So the idea that the NFTs have to look or behave a certain way is a category error. It's not understanding that someone can, treat NFTs like stamps, which are made of paper, but then sketches are also made of paper. So again, I'm all for making it much more mundane and much more traditional than people think it is, and overcomplicating it. And that way, I think, it's much more comfortable to understand.
Great. We have a question from Abysms. I guess that, I don't know. I'm not sure that that's the person's real name. Saying there are a lot, and this is one for Anne. There are a lot of women into crypto art. There's a community called Woka. They help organize and curate women's art. Are you aware of this, Anne?
Yeah, and I've actually worked with them. So we have this SuperRare editorial, and we actually did a week of feature on their founders, like how they started this Woka. I think they had this Discord group that they just welcome not just female crypto artists, but also male crypto artists who support female crypto artists. They together in this group and talk about, trying to make this crypto art space more gender equal. Yeah, so I think they're doing a very great job.
Great.
And you should mention the female artists in the auction as well, which aren't obviously participating today.
Yeah, so we have Sarah Zucker. She's a very amazing artist. She is, you know, in the crypto art community, everybody loves her, and also Michelle Simpson. She's also a very great artist, and I actually had an exhibition with her, I think a year ago, on pop art. She has very sophisticated thoughts on how pop art, British pop art and American pop art kind of similar to some ideas about crypto art. Yeah, so I think, I know people say that in the crypto space is very male dominated, but we do have a lot of very amazing crypto female artists, and people are very supportive, and I don't really see a lot of, you know, discrimination or anything. And we have this amazing female organizations that we, you know, help and support females in the space.
Great, thank you very much, Anne. We had a cheerleading message, which I'll read out. This is awesome. Lucky to be a part of it. Thanks to all the panelists. Sam Gaskell. I don't know if he's a friend of any of you, but he seems happy.
Sam's a great guy. I know Sam.
Oh, you know Sam. Okay, great. Thank you, Sam, for cheering us on. We've only got about 4 minutes to go. We've got another congratulations message, amazing panel from Luri K. Thank you, Luri. And Huda says, trust your intuition. I think we will. I think I'm going to shoot this last question because we've only really got 3 minutes to go. From Lee Liebold again, another questioner from before. I don't know who. I'll shoot it to John. Should I wait until the field stabilizes, becomes normalized to digitize my art?
So I would say there's no real reason to wait. I think one of the most exciting, or one of the things that's kind of fun and interesting with NFTs is the provenance. So like by the act of creating the token, you're like sort of imbuing the art with this identity. You know, so I don't think there's any reason to hold off and wait. It's kind of fun to have it out there and, you know, almost just be sort of growing on its own. It has its own life. And so, you know, I'd say there's lots of, you know, froth in the market, but that's certainly not a reason to hold off. I'd say you should get involved and kind of, you know, join a community and make some friends.
Yeah, I just got a really important question from Craig Morrison, which I should have raised earlier. He says, this is all great, but can you tell me when the issue of the cryptocurrency carbon footprint will be considered by these artists? I do want, yeah, Amir, could you address that?
Yeah, well, there is this misconception that people think that because the cryptocurrency uses mining, it affects environment more badly than any other thing. See at my background, these are physical sculptures, right? Mm-hmm. Producing them, shipping them, maintaining them. These are costs. These are affecting environment, right? A canvas, you are talking about producing the ink and then the gas emitting of the ink. I mean, they're all on the internet, right? The creation of the canvas, the framing, shipping, and the shipping, I'm not talking about someone handling the frame by hand. It just needs all sorts of packaging, cardboard, protections, and then planes or ships or cars, right?
Sure.
So the overall impact of like our everyday life is equivalent to any sort of impact that cryptocurrency has or mining has. And don't forget that when we are talking about NFT, we are not creating or adding to the environment impact of the blockchain, right? The blockchain, the miners are already doing their thing because of the transactions. When we mint something or when we buy something on the blockchain, we are just riding the train. We are not adding to it. It's not like if you add some sort of different transaction, it makes it heavier, so it uses more energy, right? So it's not like that. And this is a misconception that some people start to talk about it. And I totally disagree with it. I do not believe that the carbon footprint or environment impact of the blockchain is higher than any other normal thing that we do in normal life.
Okay, well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. It is 6 p.m. and this panel is sadly coming to an end. I found it really riveting. I wanted to thank all the participants because they brought so much to the table, so much knowledge, expertise, firsthand experience, and it's been a real pleasure for me. Welcome again to this webinar from Bonhams on NFT art, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Nima, you might want to.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to end it. I didn't know how to end the webinar, to be honest. But
Let's keep it
I
going.
think yeah, we could just talk forever. We could just talk forever. I mean, like, I'm worried if I click end, I'll just leave the room. Oh, end webinar. Here we go.